Good morning. It is Monday, August 14th at about 5:30 in the morning. My name is Larry Cedar, and I'm back with you for another session on what I now call expansion. Just thought let's cut to the chase. I used to call it scanning. I used to spell it with a Q, S-Q-A-N-N-I-N-G. Then I called it regular scanning, and then I said, wait a second, let's just get right to the point. What we're trying to do here in these sessions is expand. This session is going to be as bare bones as possible. We're going to try strictly just to get to it. I'll explain a little bit as I go along, but just by way of definition, expansion is the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. That's all we're trying to do is expand. The opposite of expansion is contraction. Squeeze your hands together, contraction, release, expansion. So we start these sessions with deep breaths because breath is expansive by nature. When you are unhappy or tense or upset, you tend to hold your breath. That's a contraction. So we're going to do the opposite right off the bat. We're going to take a deep breath. Take one deep breath. And you've already begun expanding. And that's all we're going to do for the next half hour or so is expand. We're going to use the muscles, release of muscular tension to set us on the path towards expansion. You can't contract and expand at the same time. Once you've begun expanding in any way, shape, or form, you've stopped contracting. And the goal is to expand because we spend a lot of time in our life contracting, worrying, thinking, doing, to the point where we are out of balance. We're overly contracted. We feel tense, unhappy, obsessed. We try to work to expand to bring ourselves back in the expansive direction until we are centered, because you want to balance. Contraction is how you achieve things, how you do things, how you think things, write things, create. Expansion is how you let go of things, release, go to nothingness, emptiness, peace, and joy. Between those two is our life. We vacillate between these two, but what we're going to work on now in this session is simply expansion. So take another deep breath. Now sit for just a minute in absolute stillness and silence. Stillness is the opposite of action. Again, a more expansive thing to do. And silence is the opposite of thought and speech. So again, we're moving away from contraction. We took a deep breath. Now we're going to sit in a place of stillness and silence for 1 minute. Don't move a muscle. Now take another deep breath. So we have begun to expand. And it's that simple. And it's useful to remind yourself during the day to take a breath, to sit in stillness and silence. It's amazing how rarely we do that. If I was to turn to someone and say, let's just sit for a moment, for a minute in absolute stillness and silence, they might get a little weirded out. It's not something we typically do. So we're taking a moment to stop contracting and start expanding. So let's do 2 deep breaths. And let's take another full minute of absolute stillness and silence. Again, all we're doing is moving the dial away from contraction and towards expansion. Expansion, that's all we're doing. Stillness, silence, deep breaths are a great way to start. 2 deep breaths, a minute of stillness and silence. Here we go. Slowly, easily. The idea is just to expand. 1 minute of absolute stillness and silence. Continue to breathe, but don't move a muscle. This sends a signal to your body that you've stopped doing, you've stopped thinking, you've stopped speaking. Stillness and silence. Deep breath. So, what I'm trying to share, what I would like people who watch these videos to know, or to be reminded of because they instinctively know, is that you always have the ability within you to expand. We become convinced that we just can't. I can't stop thinking. I can't stop moving. So we will go to an external form of expansion. We'll either take a pill, smoke a joint, take a drink, go to a class, a yoga class, have someone tell you how to do it. What I'm trying to encourage, what I really encourage in people, is that they practice this technique on their own so that they begin to have an instinctive understanding of the fact that they can do it themselves. Now, why? It's great to ask people for help or to use external substances or forms to get you to expand. But when you begin to have a sense that you can do it yourself, you feel empowered. It's very empowering to know that no matter what state of mind you're in, no matter how panicked or upset or uncomfortable you are, you have a tool, a very simple set of tools within you that will bring you to an expanded, happier, more relaxed, more open, calm place. Which is, I think, what the goal is in all of this, is to feel good. We feel bad, plenty. What I would like to encourage in people is an understanding that they can make themselves feel good. Okay, so these are just simple tools, and you instinctively know them. I'm not teaching you anything you don't already know. I'm just reminding you. But I highly recommend that you practice on your own. So a lot of people say to me, I can't stop my mind from racing. My thoughts, I can't stop my mind from racing. How do I calm down? I've tried meditating. I can't. I get to, okay, perfect. I understand. I've had the same experience. What this technique does, this technique of expansion, is it uses very specifically the muscles to bring you into an expanded state. Now I'll explain this and then we'll continue. The muscles can either do one of two things: contract, make a fist, or expand, release. They can't do both at the same time. It's a wonderful fact because it allows you to incorporate that device to become more expanded. By expanding, by releasing muscular tension, you've moved yourself ever so slightly, incrementally, as I like to say, into a slightly more expanded state. And that's all we're doing, is nudging ourselves into a more expanded state, incrementally. A lot of people want big, fast results. This is an incremental process. And one of the reasons we practice is because you begin to understand the value of incremental change. If I take a breath, well, I may not feel 100% great, but I've expanded a little. I've stopped moving in this direction and started moving in an expansive direction. And because you can't contract and expand at the same time, I've in effect stopped contracting and begun the process. So the beautiful thing, as I said, about the muscles is they can only contract or expand. So we use the muscles. Thought is a contracted process, bringing together words, ideas, thoughts. When you think, when you're obsessing, you're contracting. You're bringing together thoughts, ideas, worries. So we want to reverse that. So we can't always stop our mind, but we can use our muscles. We can release muscular tension. Squeeze your hands and release. You just did it. Okay, so we're going to be doing that through the whole body. So as you begin to release muscular tension, this, in fact, infuses your body with a more expansive state. Your body's all connected. The head's connected to the toes. It's all one piece. Your body begins to get the signal, the message that, oh, it's time to expand. When that happens, it reaches your brain, which, like a muscle, is contracting to form thoughts, ideas, and words. It starts to let go, like your muscles are doing. It's a muscle of sorts. And those thoughts and obsessive ideas can no longer be held. They are released. And when you become to an expanded state, you feel silent. But we use the muscles because we can control the muscles. We can't control the mind. It's very complicated. It's not like a regular muscle. So it'll keep racing. If you put your full concentration into releasing muscular tension, don't worry if the thoughts are still racing. Just concentrate on releasing muscular tension. At some point you'll go, I'll be darned. I stopped thinking. So that's the technique. That's the trick that I discovered. By releasing muscular tension, your mind will eventually follow suit. Okay, so we're going to take 1 more, 2 more, 3 more deep breaths, followed by another full minute of absolute stillness and silence, and then we are going to begin to explore this process of muscular release, which will in turn lead us into a more expanded state, a place of peace, calm, joy, centered. 3 deep breaths, full minute, absolute stillness and silence. Here we go. Expansive breaths, as deep as you can. And again, think how rarely you do that over the course of a day. So we're taking an opportunity to stop contracting and to start expanding. Another breath. And you can feel how it starts to change your very being. Another. Full minute of absolute stillness and silence. And again, absolute stillness and silence. Continue to breathe, but don't move a muscle. This sends a very clear signal to your body that we are doing something different now. Full minute. Deep breath. Now, before we move on, I want to give a slight variation on what we just did, the deep breaths. You can, I think there's something called Kundalini Yoga, which I took a long time ago, which was very strong inhalations, okay? And they claimed that had a certain effect on the body. I agree. If you feel so inclined, take deep, very deep, strong breaths. You may not feel comfortable with that. It may make you feel like you're hyperventilating. You're not going anywhere. You're sitting in a chair. You're not going to fall over. But it has a way of kind of shocking your system into a reversal of this contraction process. So, for example, I would go. Some people like to do through the nose and out through the mouth. Whatever variation works good to you. But now if you stop, in my case, there's a certain calm that comes over you. So you might experiment with that. This technique is very customizable. My body is my body, your body is yours. Whatever works for you, you'll discover that as you explore this process. The main thing is that you keep expanding. Okay, so you might take a note now also before we continue on, how you maybe feel different just based on those deep breaths and stillness and silence. For me, I tend to walk around throughout the day with a sense of agitation. I'm always thinking of what I should be doing next, or should have done, or will do in the future, or I have this muscular tension which I carry around with me, and it's just my nature. And when I take deep breaths and sit in stillness and silence, I immediately feel a slight sense of calm. It short circuits the contracted process. You're taking expansive steps so you can no longer contract. You've short-circuited the contracted process. Now, how far you get depends on how long you stay with the practice. Like you can expand for 5 minutes, you can expand for half an hour. I like to take anywhere from half-hour to hour sessions when I have the time. It goes against my instincts, being a contracted person by nature, but I've learned after years of doing this that there's a great benefit, so I guess you could say force myself to do it at least once or twice a day. I keep a journal as a way to motivate myself as to how many times I've done it. You might try that. You want to make expansion as much of a habit as contraction. You want to begin to have an instinctual understanding of when you're contracted and when you're expanded, and when you need to stop contracting and expand in order to bring yourself into balance, to have a more centered life. That's all we're doing here, is building our awareness and building the practice of expansion. Again, it used to be called scanning, because what I said, we were scanning the body for muscular tension, but it was like a step away, step removed from what we're really doing, which is expansion. So that's what I'm going to call it from now on, expansion. Expansion, contraction, the two major forces of the universe. So you just want to build an awareness of that. So now we get into what I call the nuts and bolts of the technique. We started earlier by saying it's the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. Incremental. Can't overemphasize how important that is, because a lot of people will go, well, I didn't feel anything, I didn't change, I didn't feel great, I just felt. Did you feel a little better? Did you feel a little expanded? Were you aware of some slight change? That's the path you're headed down. If I go this far or this far, I've still moved towards expansion. It doesn't matter. Each time you'll get better, you'll move a little further until eventually you'll bring yourself to a fully expanded state. And you won't care, you won't have any judgment, you'll just be. And you'll know it when you feel it. It'll feel wonderful. It's a place of peace, because there's nothing but existing. When you're in a completely expanded state, you simply exist. There's no judgment, right or wrong, good or bad, up or down. You just exist. You feel your heart beating. You hear the sounds of the room. You feel the air on your skin. You're not thinking about the past or future. You're just in the moment. And that's where you truly live. That's your true self. And if you can come to that place and embrace that place, then you've truly come to love and embrace yourself. It's a great feeling of peace. So don't be discouraged if this process is frustrating, if you only get a little into it. As you practice, you'll get further and further. And just remember that judgment is a contraction. When you judge something, you're contracting, you're defining something. So you want to learn to stop judging yourself. You want to learn to start just being at peace with whatever you are. And so when you say, well, I didn't do well, say, well, no, that's a contraction. You did what you did. Celebrate that. That's expansion. I celebrate, I embrace everything. So here we go. We're going to start with muscular release, incremental muscular release. Squeeze your hands together, 3, 2, 1, and release. You just did it. That's that feeling. That's it. That's expansion. Squeeze, 3, 2, 1, release. Take a deep breath. All we're doing is taking expansive steps. So because a muscle can only contract or expand, release, can't do both at the same time, we're simply moving it in an expansive direction. Start with the face. On my count, I want you to release whatever muscular tension you can in your face. And you might look in the mirror and actually see it happen. 3, 2, 1, and release. That snap was by turning off the power to those muscles. They slackened. I saw it happen. I always start with the face because you can see it happen. You can see it. Okay? Slight. But there was a change. So now you're already aware of the fact that you have the power to expand. You have the power within you to bring yourself into a more expanded state. You just did it. We tend to walk around throughout the day with our bodies in a somewhat contracted, fear-induced state. We're protecting ourselves. We're flesh and blood. We're so easily injured by anything in life, and so we instinctively protect ourselves. We clench, we hold, we put up our armor. So we carry around this tension, which is exhausting because it takes energy to hold a contracted state. So you'll begin to explore, where can I let go of tension? So let's start again with the face. 3, 2, 1, and release. So note that, feel that. How did that feel? You've expanded. Take a deep breath. Zone 2, as I call it, and I've broken my body up into zones just to kind of isolate this practice. You can do whatever you want. You can do the left side of your body, the right side of your body. The point is to explore where you have muscular tension and where you can release it. All we're doing is moving ourselves in a more expanded state. Top of the head. Kind of focus on it. Think for a moment, how can I release the tension in the muscles on the top of my head? 3, 2, 1, and release. It may seem strange to you at first. That's why you practice, because you're beginning to awaken within yourself the consciousness of your ability to release muscular tension. Without going to a masseuse, without taking a drug, without taking a drink, without smoking a joint, you have the power in you to induce this deeply relaxed, open state. And you can go back to whatever you want, but it's nice to have it in your pocket, to know that no matter how worried you are, no matter where you are in your consciousness, you can change the direction and bring yourself to a place of peace. I wake up, I'll be perfectly honest with you, every night, about 3 a.m, in a total state of panic about whatever. Just pick one. There's a million things now in life to be worried about. Now we can embrace that panic, which is contraction. It's our attempt to control our environment, and just keep doing it because instinctively we feel I've got to do something. Or we can say, there might be another way to go with this. And you can lie in bed and begin releasing muscular tension and watch what happens and see if you can bring yourself to a place where those thoughts just dissipate. What I'm trying to teach is that not only do we have the ability, but expansion is just as valid a choice, just as valid an action in embracing life as contraction. Maybe more valuable. Because when you're in expanded state, you see everything. You're completely aware. You're not afraid. You're clear. You're basically in an ideal state to handle life because you see all your options and you are relaxed. So you're more capable of making choices in an effective way. Top of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. Great. Moving to the back of the head. Again, what we're learning to do is focus on our body. Some people have a high body awareness. Some people have a low body awareness. Wherever you're at, just to focus on parts of your body and see what you can do to move them in the direction you'd like them to go. The back of the head. You're going to let go of all muscular tension in the back of your head on my count. 3, 2, 1, and release. And you might feel other parts of you release as well. As I said, every part of the body is connected to every other part of the body. I might relax my face and feel my shoulders drop. It's all connected. That's why foot massages are so overall healing, because if your foot becomes relaxed, the rest of your body just goes, this is great. So just work on that part, but allow it to affect the entire being. Back of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. The neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. You can snap or not snap. I do that as a means of indicating that I've flipped the power switch. If it takes power to contract a muscle, I've turned the power off, so muscle can't do anything but just be. Muscles tend to, when they're holding, they tend to want to hold. So even if you tell your muscle to relax, sometimes it doesn't want to. It's coming from a place of fear. When you injure yourself and you have a spasm, a lot of times it's because your body is instinctively trying to protect itself. So we'll hold on and it won't let go until it feels like it's safe again. And even if it's safe, it might still hold on. This is why we have back pains, neck pains, because your body has taken a position of defense. But don't worry, just keep nudging at it. Just let go. The interesting thing is sometimes if you want your back to relax, concentrate on relaxing your neck, your face. Again, everything affects everything else. The neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, the neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. Moving into what I call zone 5, the shoulders, let them drop. You know how we all carry our shoulders up around our ears. 3, 2, 1, and release. Deep breath. And anywhere in this process where you feel an instinct to take a deep breath, take it. That's your body sending a signal that, oh, I'm beginning to feel safe. I've been holding my breath, contracting. Now I feel like it's safe to let go, expand. And we tend to hold our breath. So we're lacking in oxygen. And, you know, sometimes when you feel tense, it's because you've been holding your breath and your body's saying, I feel like I'm dying. And you become fearful because you're not getting enough oxygen. And if you just take a breath, your body goes, oh, thank God, I think I'm going to live. And the panic dissipates. Breath, breath, breath. Shoulders drop, 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, shoulders, 3, 2, 1, and release. Deep breath. All of these steps are expansive steps. Pick and choose the ones that work for you. The important thing is to take the time to expand. Zone 6 is the chest, stomach, front of the waist. What I call the plate of armor. Again, all forms of protection. 3, 2, 1, and release. Just let it droop. You're building a consciousness of your body's contraction. You're going, wow, I do feel some tension there. Can I let that go? Yes. Maybe not a lot, maybe just a little. The chest, 3, 2, 1, and again, when you release the chest, you're probably going to want to take a breath because that's where the breathing mechanism is. Zone 7 is down the back and into the pelvic region. 3, 2, 1, and release. When you hold tension in the pelvis, it tends to be a clenching feeling, holding, again, an area of great vulnerability, which we tend to instinctively want to protect, but you're safe now, you're in a chair, you're not going anywhere. Let go of all tension that you can in the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, 3, 2, 1, and release. And finally, zone 8, down the legs across the knee and into the all-important feet. Focus on your feet. See if you can release the slightest amount of tension. Incremental muscular release in the feet. 3, 2, 1, and release. And pay attention to how frightening it can feel to let go of muscular tension. When we expand, we feel vulnerable. When you are contracted, you are solid, which feels safe. Nothing can penetrate me. When you are expanded, you are permeable. Things can get through. So which is ultimately great, because then you're completely at peace with the world. Nothing hits you, you move through everything. But initially it can feel very vulnerable. You're dropping your defenses, your protection. So if you feel that feeling and it makes you want to stop, move past that. You're safe. You're in a chair. Nothing's happening. The feet, 3, 2, 1, and release. And the feet are very sensitive. So we may instinctively feel, whoa, that's a little scary. If I don't have my muscular tension, my muscular suit of armor, what's protecting me? But move through that because you're safe. Nothing's going on. When you've moved past the feeling of vulnerability, you come to a place of peace because you realize you're safe without the suit of armor. If anything, you're safer because now you're more conscious of whatever you're dealing with. But it's a new habit which has to be formed. We habitually contract as our solution to everything. We think, we do, we exert effort, we worry, we tense up. This is our go-to solution. We spend 90% of our day contracting. It's also how you get things done. So it's a valid approach. The problem is, again, when we become overly contracted. So we're moving ourselves, pulling ourselves back from that into a more expanded state. So take a deep breath. Another. One more. 1 minute of absolute stillness and silence. Deep breath. And that's it. This is a very, 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 very simple technique. It can be practiced anywhere, anytime. Personally, it's brought me through a lot of trouble, mentally, physically. It's kind of saved me, which is why I'm so enthusiastic about it and why I try to share it with others. If you want to know more about the technique, it's based on the ideas of a man named Thaddeus Golas, Golas. He wrote a book called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, where he lays out the foundation of this practice, the theory that everything in the universe is in either one of two states, contracting or expansion, that we vacillate between the two. And when we are contracted, we feel one way. When we're expanded, we feel another. Both are valid, but what you want is to feel centered. So take a look at that book if you want. And that's it for today. I apologize if I move very quickly through these. I only like the sessions to go a half an hour maximum, so I tend to move through them quickly. In your own time, when you practice on your own, take as much time as you need or like to explore this expanded state. Time is a contraction. Time is a convention we have devised to divide an infinite space into seconds, minutes, hours, so that we can coordinate with each other and coordinate our life. It's a necessary tool, but it is a contractive tool. As you begin to expand, you stop paying attention to what time it is. You start to forget what day it is. You start to not notice how long you've been sitting. Time dissipates, and that's a great sign that you've expanded. You got to go back to using time to be a responsible human on this earth as a human being, but explore the release of time. And I say that because when you're practicing, don't pay so much attention to how much time you spend scanning or not scanning. Just start to do it and see where it takes you. Do as I've done and just make it a life exploration and see what it can do for you. For me, it's provided a sort of balance, which has allowed me to peacefully embrace my life. So that's it for today. Thanks for visiting. We'll see you next time, and take care. Bye-bye.